Hello, everybody. This is Pursuit of Flavor Masterclass. We're going to get started in just a minute. Okay, how many people are excited for this class? Let me know that you can hear me and see me okay. I think we're good there, but just in case. Awesome. Let me know where you're joining from. This class is specifically for all of our students in the culinary gym, anyone that's taken a past class. So if you want to share what class you've taken, like how long ago, some people might not have been with me for a live class like this in a few years. If you took a course a long time ago and haven't done much with me since then. So I'm excited to just get back to or reconnect with anyone who hasn't been in the community for a long time or very active with me for a long time. I'm, like I said, going to be getting support from my email, but also in some other ways, and hopefully we'll get more engagement around delicious living, because for me, that's what it's ultimately about. The food is a big piece of that, but it's so much more than that. So I'm looking to do a podcast and a book, lots in the works. And really, I would love to just reconnect with the community, because I mean, there's a large percentage of the community we've been in connection with all year through the Revitalize program and the different courses. But for anyone that hasn't been active this year, like I said, reconnecting is fantastic. Also, that is taking more effort, as everyone knows, over the last few years, looking different than being in person. And so I've been dealing with some resistance to that online element and figuring out how to make it work for me and for our community. So awesome. Hi, Lorna. Yes, it's been a while since we've really connected. So glad to see you all here. Debbie, Pam, Krista, thank you for joining us. Donalda, Kathy, awesome. So glad to see you all. Our class today is really important to me, and I would love to engage you guys throughout the course, throughout this class, rather than it just be about me talking. Because you've taken my classes before, you're familiar with me and some of my stories. So I'm going to share some of those stories as well, and maybe some new ones you haven't heard before. But those stories really help to bring meaning to some of these lessons. And I think we learn best from stories rather than just the science. I really love showing the science, but this class is going to be less sciencey than the magic of umami, if you've been in that recently. And yeah, it's really, really important to understand the concepts that we're going over today. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen so we can get started. And how's this one? No. No. That. Okay. Awesome. Oh, Kathy, you have to email me to make sure you have access to the programs that you signed up for. We've changed platforms recently. And so I'm working on getting everything on one platform again, but I really want it to be the most useful to you guys, to anyone going through the programs. And also for me as a business owner, there's so much technology, there's so many different platforms. And so I'm trying to bring them all together, use a system that will allow me to simplify the back end so that I can be more present to the content creation and even more importantly, to serving you and actually being live with you when that's an option, or doing the recorded classes. Wow, Carol, it has been a long time, but so good to see you still here. Amazing. So, okay, the Pursuit of Flavor Masterclass. This is way beyond flavor, the way that we're used to talking about flavor with, you know, the spiciness and the umami that I love, the sweetness and all of that is really important. But there's a lot more to actually enjoying the flavor of our food rather than just thinking about what we're doing in the kitchen. And so I say in the pursuit of flavor, because that's what we're after, flavor, that deliciousness in our food. And I believe much more than that, but we're after this deliciousness. And in the process, we need to be taking care of some other things. So it's the pursuit of flavor that we're talking about today. Okay, so we have a little menu here, the new land of flavor. We're going to talk about it first with the pleasure trap, and then we're going to get into the flavor success formula. So the flavor you enjoy is a reflection of your health and happiness. Like I said, this is really important. I went over it in my new class, Flavor That Heals. This was the premise that our health and happiness depend on flavor, right? Can anyone share right off the bat before we even get started how you notice this in your life? If the flavor that you're enjoying is a certain type, your health and happiness is of a certain type, right? A certain level or wholeness, truth, deepness, truth, reality of your health and happiness depends on the flavor, right? So if it's more superficial, artificial flavor, that's kind of where the health and happiness lands. More of that basic, not very deep health, not the true happiness that we're after. So we want to have the flavor be right so that our health and happiness is really strong, steady, deep, and true. So the pleasure trap is a real thing. I've been in it multiple times, many times actually, like on and off. But when I was little and through college, it was definitely the worst, especially when I didn't realize I was in it, right? So this is an example just of the reflection of the flavor in our society that everyone is enjoying and how it's affecting their health. And you don't even see faces here, but you can take a guess at what their happiness is like. You know, what level of joy, excitement, love, gratitude are they feeling? Are they noticing? To me, I'm just sensing that they're numb to that high vibration, those energies at that high frequency, love and gratitude, because they're stuck in this pleasure trap of just enjoying the most stimulating foods possible, right? So over 50% of adults will be obese by 2030. You know, when I started in 2010, it was 77%, 2/3 of our population was overweight or obese. Now they don't even put those two categories together, overweight and obese, because it would be close, probably around 80% or past, I would guess, past 80% at this point. But they are saying that by 2030, 50% will be obese. So that's not including the weight. And we know in this community that health and happiness is so much more than weight, right? It's not just the weight. I just want to show, you know, a reality of the world that we're living in. being at True North and in the Northern California in a specific little area for a long time, I was in a bubble, not just a food bubble, which I certainly was, but also in a healthy lifestyle bubble. And then as I traveled across the country, it hit me again and again, the vast array of situations and lifestyle people are in. So it feels like this to me, walking this tightrope sometimes to make sure that we don't fall into that pleasure trap, that it can be difficult and you really need to stay on course. And that's not the case when you actually adopt the flavor success formula that I'm going to go over with you. There's all these different pieces. And when you can really excel at all of those pieces, it makes it so much easier, because it's not like if one piece drops or you fall back on one of the factors, decreases, those other ones are going to hold you up to bring you back to a really healthy level easily without a lot of effort. But if you're just getting started, or if you're relying on certain elements of this flavor success formula and not considering all of the factors, then you might be walking a tightrope like this. And it doesn't need to look like the overweight population that I showed you those pictures of. The challenges in the pleasure trap can look like this. I don't know, this all looks like the same woman to me, but there was not a lot of diversity in pictures in this regard. But this was basically me. I was at a thin, healthy weight, but struggling so much with my food. And I would go down to the kitchen and sneak into the fridge while I was living with my family, at 18 years old, during the college days. And it wasn't cake I was taking out of the fridge, but it was ice cream. Even at 6 a.m. in the morning, sneaking down to the fridge, taking out a gallon of ice cream to eat it. And then buying food like this one with the chocolate bar, buying the food I wanted, or I thought, part of me wanted, and being in despair over whether to eat it or not, knowing that it was going to make my issues worse. I was going to put myself deeper in the pleasure trap and not wanting to say no to it at the same time. Right. So my journey has been a wild one, and it's your mess is your message, right? So I've definitely felt the addiction. In 2007, I was graduating college undergrad, and this is me at a wedding, 2 a.m. in the morning, having probably my 10th bowl of ice cream at a wedding. I just had bowl after bowl of ice cream. And I didn't care what anyone else thought. I looked ridiculous eating all the time, all like night long, back and forth between dancing and eating ice cream. And I didn't really care. I had my down times, like I felt totally addicted, and yet I just kept going back for the pleasure, the epitome of pleasure trap. 2012, I was cooking. Teaching plant-based cooking classes. This is actually a snap from a video I gave, and feeling so much better in my body and in my mind. And still I was making banana blueberry bars here though. And that was the path I was on at the beginning of my plant-based journey, was to create more and more deliciousness. So as much as I felt fantastic eating whole plant foods, I wanted more flavor for everyone that was just getting started with a plant-based diet. I wanted it to be more delicious. So I was making baked goods. And initially they started off really simple, like the banana blueberry bars, fantastic. Oats, a little bit of dates, a banana, walnuts, really simple, not too dense. But over time, in 2016, I started the culinary gym, still feeling fantastic. But the level of flavor I was creating in my food was creeping up, and my desserts were getting more decadent. Like I had a chocolate cake. It's just amazing. And the chocolate cake is a lot of, it's the flour, whole whole grain flour, often processed myself, but there were a lot of dates. There's juice, maybe even jam. There's more ingredients to make it the level of decadence that people are wanting because of our fast-paced society. And that also includes myself. I was starting to add in some other foods because of the social scene I was in. I was starting to include more pizza, like vegan pizza, plant-based pasta options, these different things that I was trying to justify as part of a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet, but they were certainly not whole foods, and they were not supportive to my health at that time. So by 2018, I'm totally depressed. I think this was actually the winter of 2018, and for a few months, this is what I looked like. Horrible picture. I was forced myself to take a picture, but most days I woke up crying and just uncontrollable tears a lot of the day. And my solution, as much as I knew it was part of the issue, I just wanted to go and have another really tasty meal. And when I say a tasty meal, I'm thinking something like a black bean burger from the restaurant instead of making it myself, because I was in a state where I didn't want to prepare my own food. I just wanted the comfort and convenience. I would go to a restaurant and order like a tempeh sandwich with the bread and the tempeh and the sauce that they put on it, right? All of that decadence. And it was just in a loop. And it took me a few years to get out of it. And I realized that it was so much more than just getting a clean diet. So in 2022, you see, I'm doing much better in picking berries, loving it. And my life looked so different than it did in 2018. Not just my food, but my overall life and my mind and my energy, very, very different. And that's the path I'm on, of healing my whole self and creating a lifestyle that really allows me to shine, rather than just a diet that helps me be healthy and have good blood work. I actually want to thrive in all areas of life. And that includes, is going to need much more than flavor. And it's a journey I'm on, very much in the, thick of right now, healing my body in many ways, which I would love to talk to you about in another class. So a new land of flavor. Oh, Kathy. It's so hard. This story, thank you for sharing that, because I was getting teary-eyed just talking about the story because of the pain I went through. And so I can relate. And I invite you to have a new frame of mind, that maybe it's not the heartbreak ending that you might be envisioning right now. And I invite all of you to consider that. And if you are in a space, a really great space right now, like, appreciate that and love it, and consider that it could be even better. Not that we always need to be pushing for more, but that's what we're designed for. We're designed to evolve and be our best self, continually stepping up what we're doing to be a better version of ourselves. If we're still here, there's still more growth to be had. Okay, so finding that balance of accepting and loving what is, and recognizing the opportunity to grow and evolve. So new land of flavor. This is not the flavor I want for you. It's not far off from what some of us might actually think is like the ultimate peak flavor, depending on where your taste buds are. But for a lot of people, a salad like this with, basic tomato and radishes, or maybe the cucumber and tomato, is like what we think of as the rabbit food or vegan food, especially if you aren't already totally in love with your salads, if you're just getting started, or if, for me, before even coming to a plant-based diet, this is what I thought of as vegan food, the salad on the left, and probably the hummus and carrots as well. But once you get into this world, you realize there's so much more potential than just the most basic flavors like this. And these have a really important piece, role in our lifestyle as well. So I'm not knocking these completely, but flavor can look so much more than this. Taste so much more than this as well. The presentation actually matters here. So we want to delight in the food we eat, but at the same time, the food has to love us back. Otherwise, it's like being in an abusive relationship with someone who beats us when we hug them, right? It's got to be nourishing to us, and not just on the physical, for the physical body, but also for us mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's long term. If we want that ultimate health and happiness, it has to nourish us on every level. I'm just going to mute everyone too. So this is a type of flavor that I want for you. And notice that the complexity of the dishes is more than those last pictures, of course, but it's not over the top. You can see the whole foods on the plate, right? This is not processed vegan food. Notice the colors, even the presentation is different. That presentation makes a big difference in how we enjoy our food. And that's something for me personally, I don't thrive on the presentation of my meals, because as a food addict, I get the meal done, I create it, the flavor is amazing, and then I just want to sit and eat, right? Or I do so much work with the presentation, I just want to sit and relax. Where if we can be more mindful of the presentation and consider that aspect of it, it supports us in being more mindful overall with the experience of dining and enjoying our food. The connection between the people here also makes a difference, right? This is so much different than the pictures I showed you before, and yet it's still whole foods. It's just a variety of whole foods with more intention of the combining of the different flavors, the different foods, to put them together for excellent flavor, and the presentation and the connection, right? There's an energy to the picture that you can pick up on, the way the hands are reaching for the food. You can pick up, and the one person holding the meal at the bottom, actually holding the plate as if giving some gratitude and saying thanks for this meal. All of that energy goes into how good the meal looks, right? And so you can just kind of take this as a first takeaway with the meals that we're creating, how there's all these different pieces that go into making it so delicious. So this is my flavor success formula for smooth sailing without all of the bumps, challenges, ups and downs like I went through. And of course, through learning this flavor success formula, there's going to be the ups and downs, but hopefully when you have all of these factors to consider right from the start, or wherever you are in your journey, that you can adapt them now, it's going to make things easier. So commit to real food, reseed your microbiome, reset your taste buds, master wholesome flavor, create bright lines, have a peaceful mind and loving heart, and live deliciously. Okay, so let's walk through these. We have the flavor success formula. And this started with, by the way, it started with just 4 different factors. And as I've been teaching it and really embodying the combination of these factors and working them in my own life, I realized the importance of these other elements that I brought into it. So I have 7 factors for you now. 1, commit to real food. Every food has its own unique flavor that can add complexity and richness to any dish, making it so special, right? Even if it's just like a one food meal, a mono meal, they call it, one individual food. when you start with real food, that fresh, whole foods, ideally fresh, whole, local foods, then you can have so much flavor without even doing anything to it. Literally, it was a red bell pepper that I picked up. Actually, I sliced into a red bell pepper. The flavor was so good. I picked up a little piece of it, took a bite, and the flavor that I tasted in my mouth, it just overwhelmed me that I literally changed my career based on one bite of an organic, fresh red bell pepper. I was going to be a doctor. I was in school studying to be, I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, actually. And so I was in college, and that one bite took me from becoming a doctor to a nutritionist. Just crazy to me how the power of flavor has, and for me, it was like a light bulb moment, right? Having this realization that the flavor of food is that powerful, that it can help people to change their diet. And it's the food that is causing the disease, but can also be the medicine. So we want to start with whole foods, and just making that commitment to begin with is a huge step. Having clarity around this, which is easy to say and feels so basic, but at the same time, I know there's many people out there who are not doing 100% whole foods and might not even be doing 80% whole foods. And that's what really matters. It doesn't need to be 100%. It doesn't need to be perfect, but we want to commit to eating real foods. And when you do that, then it should show up easily to 80, 90, 95, 99% of your food is whole foods. And that is going to be a game changer for your enjoyment of deliciousness right off the bat. Like, that's the biggest change that you can make to have more flavor in your life. And so I want to show you this classification of processed food. So we have and the far right are the processed foods that we generally think of, the junk foods, ultra processed food. Then group 3 is the not ultra processed, like the high fructose corn syrup, but still highly processed foods. And this is the standard American diet between groups 3 and 4. This is the food that everyone is eating. Then in group 2, we have the minimally processed ingredients. A lot of times these are specifically for culinary purposes, like the olive oil, butter is grouped in here. This is not a vegan chart. Honey, this might be white flour, but it to me also looks like it could be white sugar, it could be salt, and MSG actually. And I would put all of those as in group 3, but the far left is the unprocessed or minimally processed foods. And I think there should actually be 5 groups here. Unprocessed should be a separate group than minimally processed, absolutely. Right? The challenge for me to find in just doing this presentation, I'll show you a food pyramid a little bit later, but finding pictures where they really reflect the differences that we see within our conversation around food, as I just mentioned, unprocessed versus minimally processed, but also within like whole grains, and that the whole grains not including flour, which is not a whole grain, right? There's so many little things like that that made it very challenging for me to find pictures when I wanted to give you what I'm really referring to and talking about here. And I mentioned that because that's in large part of the issue, is that we're not speaking and living what we know to be true so much that it's reaching the media and being passed down to the next generations, and even spread, horizontally to our friends and family. And so you can see, again, part of the issue is that the plant-based world is doing the same thing, right? These are all fantastic books, so I'm not knocking them. I'm not trying to to put any of them down, but I'm speaking to the reality that even within a whole food plant-based community, there is a lot of processed food accepted as normal, as healthy. And it's not serving us in the long run. Okay. The Health Span by Juliana Hever and her partner, Ray Cronus, they wrote the Health Span. And I actually really appreciate that book, the message, because they talk about whole foods and the importance of the whole foods, but then also mentioning that they're using processed ingredients to add flavor to the food and saying that that is okay for some people, and just acknowledging that might be a more sustainable option to add in a little bit of that processed flavor. In a similar way, Forks Over Knives uses a lot of pasta and breads, different types of processed grain to make the lifestyle more sustainable to people. Unfortunately, I don't know that they clarify the difference between whole food and processed grains as much as I'd like them to. Maybe that's changed in recent years, but in the past, they weren't really addressing this, and whole grains included pasta and breads made from whole grain flour. But that's like saying a jam is whole fruit just because it's made from whole fruit. That is not the same thing. It's calling a plant-based burger made with pea protein and soy protein made with whole pea protein and whole soy protein. You could then call that burger a whole protein source. And it's not, because it's made with protein, pea protein, not whole peas, right? Soy protein, not whole soy. So there's a big difference. Yes, Pam, you're speaking exactly to what I'm getting at here. Whole grain flour is considered a whole grain in our plant-based community at large, and certainly within the healthy living space, but it's not a whole grain. It's a processed grain, right? Just like orange juice. Orange juice is not a whole fruit. Orange juice is a processed fruit. Same thing. We've processed it. That doesn't make it not acceptable within a healthy, whole food, plant-based lifestyle, but we've got to differentiate between these things, because for some people it really matters, even if at small amounts of these minimally processed foods. And for other people, most of their diet could be these minimally processed foods because they think they're healthy. Like literally, people can be trying to reverse cancer, a very difficult disease to reverse, especially if it's at a later stage, and yet they're having pasta regularly because they think it's part of a healthy whole food plant-based diet that can reverse cancer, right? Big difference. The orange juice you squeeze yourself, I would say it's still processed, but I would say it's minimally processed, right? And that's like a good example. It's like cooking. It's like cooking, sauteing your food, right? You sauteing your food or grilling your food. It's still a whole food. It's a little bit different, but dehydrating your food. How about dehydrating your food? If you dehydrate your food for 24 hours, you're making bars or something, it started as a whole food, you've actually taken the water out of that food. It is no longer an unprocessed food. So there's a lot of variation here, but just really good to know, to recognize. And because there is so much variation, it's not easy to say it's one way or the other way, right? Like greens, blending greens. You started with whole grains. Do I say that you're eating processed food because you had a smoothie? I wouldn't want to use that terminology to say you're having processed food just because you had a smoothie, right? But recognizing it within ourselves and finding the nuances in our language and in our relationships of when those distinctions make a difference, right? Because for us, it doesn't make a difference. I mean, I'm speaking generally, so I apologize for that, because for some people it may make a difference about the smoothies. You may not want to be having smoothies. And for other people, that those smoothies are totally fine within their plan. And for them, they realize they're starting with greens and they're processing it to be a blended drink that doesn't have the fiber intact any longer, but it might be serving them. It might actually be part of what is healthiest for them. So we just have to be honest with ourselves, and it helps, I think, to be really honest with each other, and that will serve us overall, not just individually and within our own relationships, but the community as a whole, to be more upfront about the truth behind processing and whole foods. Does that help? Judy, I like that. Yes, you could have blackberry bushes too, David. Amazing. Yes, so the plant-based term in and of itself is an issue. And I recognize that when I started this in 2010, I wrote a blog article about the term plant-based. And now we have plant-based everywhere in the markets, in the marketplace. And most of those plant-based options are processed to the point that we don't want to be consuming them as whole food plant-based eaters. So I like that. I think I've been using a term whole plant food diet for a while, and I think Dylan Holmes also uses that term whole plant food. I may be mistaken, but this term says that we eat whole plants, not plant-based. We have chemicals that are plant-based. We have pharmaceuticals that are plant-based, right? There's a lot of based products that are very unhealthy for us. And cooking is processing as well, Carol. But I was trying to get to a distinction about removing the water. Dehydration was a better option than just sauteing. But cooking is absolutely processed. And so honestly, here's another example of the processed plant-based products are not plants, right? These are processed things of plant foods, but they're based on the plants and they're not going to serve us. But I know many people, especially vegans, that are very vocal about a vegan diet and it being healthy. And then this is a large part of their diet. Even if it's just one component of a dinner, like a plant-based sausage here, pictured here, is just a part of their stir fry that they're feeding their family. I'm thinking of someone specific, and I can pinpoint an extreme symptom that she's dealing with her skin, and the level of glutamate she has is obscene because of these plant-based products. And there may be other things going on that I'm not aware of, but I can see very clearly that these vegan products, even when they're paired with whole plants, they're still contributing to disease in the body. Okay. Robbie, that's so true. It is. But we need to, I want to make a picture of the different food processing categories like you just saw, except one that's more accurate for us. Also, plant-based restaurants like this look so beautiful. They're so inviting. They look so natural and healthy. And I absolutely love being in spaces like this because it feels so good to my nervous system. And I love what they're doing to contribute and help raise a consciousness and the health of our society. But at the same time, these plant-based restaurants make the greatest profit on processed plant foods, right? So their menu often is filled with processed food and not just processed lettuce or orange juice, more of the processed meats soy sauce, a lot of these things that can contribute to disease. And so it's easy to get people thinking they're eating healthy and maybe they're not doing as much as they think. At the same time, depending on where they're starting from, this could be like a godsend for them, right? So I'm not saying this doesn't have an amazing role in, like I said, uplifting our consciousness as a whole for the people in this community. However, though, I know that you have growth beyond this. Not that you can't eat at places like this, like I still do sometimes, but your awareness level is greater than the mainstream, right? So I want to just be pointing out these pieces to you so that you can be incorporating them into your lifestyle and also into your relationships and how you serve others, whether that's specifically through teaching. I know we have some people who are teaching cooking classes here, which is amazing, or having potlucks, or just speaking about a healthy lifestyle in general, or modeling it to other people. These are just some of the nuances that can help. Okay. So everyone eats and drinks, yet only few appreciate the taste of food. And it's so true. So we are designed to eat, to have the flavor of whole foods. Our body is made for that. So number 2 is reseed your microbiome. We have these little guts, these little bacteria all throughout our gut, but also throughout our entire system. Every part of our body is filled with bacteria, and some parts to have a larger microbiome than others, like the gut, our skin, but also our mouth. And so the microbes we taste, or the microbes in our body can actually taste, and they influence what we taste. So the biofilm on our tongue can prevent us from fully experiencing the food in our mouths. So if we have a lot of bacteria, a lot of inflammation, and that would be like within our saliva, on the walls of our mouth, on our tongue, we can have a layer of bacteria and these microbes that are affecting the taste that we're experiencing. And they could be dulling the taste so that we need more to experience it. We're not experiencing that the natural flavor of whole foods, but they can also be kind of twisting the flavor that we're experiencing. And in the intestinal lining, they're also tasting the food. We have taste receptors in our intestines, and they're literally tasting, receiving the different molecules there and sending signals up through the vagus nerve to our brain about what's been consumed. I mean, here's an example, this chart of how the microbes affect our taste. So there's a lot here, and I don't want to get into the details because I actually, this is new information. I love sharing the most cutting edge things with you. And I am not super familiar with all of the differences here, the different mechanisms of how the effects are happening. But what's clear is that when we're sick, we are more inclined to not be noticing the flavor of whole foods as much. And so we want to be healthy and to enjoy those whole food flavors. And through the process of eating those whole foods, it's going to help improve our health. So it's like this upward cycle that we got to be on, right? As you get healthier, you're going to be able to enjoy more of the whole foods flavor of whole foods. Also, if you are eating like a lot of fat in your diet, if you're eating a lot of sugar, it's going to create the microbes that are going to heighten your taste for those things. It's going to make you want more of those things. So I think that conversation has been known for a little while. I don't know if you've heard it or not, but the microbes in our gut, they are feeding on what we put there. what we consume. And when we are consuming junk, then it's those microbes are going to be eating the junk, and then they're going to want more of that. And so when we're feeding them all of the fiber, the good plant foods, that's what they're going to want more of. And it sends those signals to the brain to let the brain know what to consume. So when you get cravings, it's not just you wanting the food, but it's your gut. It's the microbes in your gut that want the food as well. And so if we stock that gut, just keep replenishing our digestive system with the healthy foods, and the microbes are going to consume and digest it. And then we replenish again, it will keep that cycle going so that we have the best flavor. I don't know what the germ-free mice means. David, I was wondering the same thing. That's the thing. I have so many studies I would love to read. I didn't get to go into depth on this one, but it's not a beneficial thing. It's not a healthy mouse. Germ-free sounds like it would be, but if you can see, it actually increases their receptors in wanting like more sweetness, more fattiness. So it's not a beneficial mouse, but they've messed with them. That would make sense. Yeah, removing their digestive bacteria. Pam, yeah. So how do we refeed or reseed our gut? Refeed and reseed our gut. Increasing the variety of plants that we're consuming, making sure that we're getting a lot of color, and eating the whole foods with the fiber, also with the water and the fiber being critical pieces to not just making us feel full in the stomach so that we have the bulk, but both of them are very important for the motility of our digestive tract. And that motility is so helpful for many things, including the lining of the gut digestive tract does better when everything is flowing and not getting kind of stuck, whether you have constipation. Also diarrhea going through so fast also is not good for the intestinal lining and for the nourishment of your body, taking in and absorbing all of those nutrients. The motility is really important. So fiber, water, and then also taking time in between your meals. Again, this makes a big difference with the motility of your digestive tract. And moving your body, especially the lower part of your body, right? So not just like weights and doing arm workouts. You got to be moving that lower part. And also like Qigong, I've been speaking about Qigong lately and how great it is for the breath and for your energy. It's really, really amazing. And that will also help your lower digestive system because you're standing and moving in not extreme ways, but subtle ways. On top of that, though, if you can do things like yoga, or at the very least, getting up and down off the floor so that you're really twisting the body more so, touching your toes. So moving in with a little bit more of that kind of, what's it, Gumby? Is that his name? Gumby, like that really, I think he's, I don't know what he was made of, but the character of moving your body in all the ways that it's designed to be able to move, right? We have so much range of motion. We were given so much range of motion, and often we lose that. Even with people that are working out and moving on a regular basis, they're not using the full range of motion. Is this a book we need to check out, David? Sounds good. I like it. The ultra-processed foods short-circuit the body's satiety response, causing us to keep eating even when we're full and interface with the gut. Yeah, so why does this, like, how does this connect to flavor, right? You might be thinking like this is just kind of typical healthy eating recommendations, but it actually makes a difference for the flavor that we're consuming. If our gut is not healthy, like I said, it's going to be creating those cravings for certain foods. And also the resetting of our taste buds makes a big difference, because when we clear reset the nervous system to enjoy more of the natural flavors of food, then we can enjoy those flavors. So it sounds so simple, but it makes such a big difference. And I went over this in the Flavor That Heals class, that when we're resetting our taste buds, we're not just resetting the taste buds in the mouth, we're resetting the taste buds within our gut as well, and which I just talked about, but also the taste receptors that are all over our body, including our skin, our pancreas, our brain. The taste receptors are all throughout our body. And when we reset them, they're more inclined to work with the rest of the body. The physiology is going to be more set up to support our health and happiness. And our health and happiness will allow us to choose the foods that are natural and full of fantastic flavor. Like, it's just this amazing cycle. Okay. Yeah, there's different numbers out there about how long it takes. Dr. Lyle, as I'm going to show you, has a longer recommendation, but it varies person to person, and it depends on how far you've come. You know, when you went off track, say you had some of the junk food or something, how far off track did you go, and for how long, right? So how much resetting is there to be done? So we've neuro adapted to the flavor that we enjoy. Wherever you are, you've neuro adapted to that flavor. Your level of healthy, whole plant-based foods, because most of us here are enjoying, you know, some type of whole food plant-based diet. What foods you're enjoying, how much they're processed, whether, you know, it's through the cooking or the chopping, whatever it is, you've neuro adapted to that flavor. So if you're having lots of dressings and sauces and finding it difficult to satisfy yourself with a minimally processed, very wholesome sauce or dressing, and you're buying dressings or tempted to go out to eat because you know that they're going to have, you know, a little more flavor in their seasoning, right? With sugar and salt, of course. All of that, you've adapted to that level of flavor. And it works just like a drug, right? So in the first image, you have that drug that's unnaturally high in whatever chemical it is. You know, with the food, it could be unnaturally high in the sweetness or the saltiness, the umami. And then the brain adapts to that. So it may reduce its production of certain neurotransmitters, or it may change the way the receptors are in the brain. It's going to change the signaling process in the brain so that you can adapt to a normal, healthy stimulus and response. So it adapts. And then you find that you have, in order to get the same, well, first, before that, the brain's going to find itself with a shortage, as it says. And so because it's adapted, and then when you don't get enough to meet the normal response that it has, then it's going to experience withdrawal. And that's when you get the cravings, right? So even if it's the microbiome in your gut having a withdrawal because it doesn't have the sugar that it wants, it's going to send signals to your brain to have more sugar, right? So we've neuro adapted. And it might be like I was saying with the salads, if you're having richer salad dressings, you've neuro adapted to want that richness. And then when you go to have a salad and you don't have a richer taste, your mind is also, even from a mental standpoint, like an emotional standpoint, you're going to be in withdrawal symptoms of not being as happy with your meal because it doesn't have that same level of stimulation from your dressing. Doesn't that? Yeah. It is addiction, exactly. Food addiction. So we have become used to the extreme levels of stimulation present in the artificial foods, as I was saying. Yet ultimately, we experience no more pleasure than if we've remained on a simpler, healthful diet. This is Dr. Lyle, the author of The Pleasure Trap with Dr. Goldhammer. So we have adapted, but we're not actually experiencing any more pleasure. And it works like this. The food at a normal, at a healthy level initially, hopefully what we've grown up with, but that's not the case. We've been in this pleasure trap for most of our lives, for most people. But the healthy food is going to give us a normal response. Then when we have the junk food, we have this heightened response. So like the first time a kid has sugar, he's going to get a little crazy. He's going to have a heightened response. Same with us. If we've been eating really healthy for a long time, and then we have a soda or ice cream or something, then your body's going to react stronger. But if you keep having those foods over time, you adapt. And that's this, where number 3 is, you're eating junk food, but your body's responding in a normal range. It might have chronic symptoms happening, but your response the way your body's responding feels normal to you because your body's adapted to it. And same with the taste. The taste feels normal, even though it's this heightened, concentrated taste. Then we have a dip. If you get healthy again, you're going to go down in the taste that you're experiencing, and not just the taste in your mouth, but also the stimulation in your body is going to feel less. So and there's going to be bursts of energy as well. But initially you might have a decline in your energy and your mental thoughts and emotions. And then as you adapt again to the healthy food, you'll have a normal responses again. Okay. 4, you're going to master wholesome flavor. So this is the flavor that we generally think of. And it's really important to have great flavor in the kitchen, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. But overall, there are 4 ways to create flavor. We can start with the really high quality ingredients. We can add in the more concentrated plant foods like herbs and spices to enhance the seasoning. And then we can get really smart about how we combine the different foods to create great taste. And on top of that, by leveraging the different techniques of how we prepare food to layer, to build that flavor. So starting with the fresh whole foods, fresh vegetables, beans, lentils, peas, the whole grains, gluten-free ideally, fresh and frozen foods, nuts and seeds, herbs and spices. I know this is not a vegan chart, by the way, and I personally am not. I am more interested in supporting everyone in eating whole plant foods rather than separating us based on dietary, kind of dogmas. Dogmas, is that the right way to say that? And so there is whole plant protein here, but, or I should say animal protein here. Like I said earlier, I found it really challenging to find a food pyramid that has what I'm looking for. So all of the plant-based pyramids I found, I did not agree with either. They're like putting whole grain flours in there as the top food, or they have the legumes above the grains. And I don't think we should be having more legumes than grains. If anything, I would say the opposite. So there's no right way to go about it. Yes, Peggy, it's crazy. There's so much dogma around food. And the truth is, most people living a very healthy, conscious lifestyle, very health conscious lifestyle, agree upon 90% of the things. Even those in the paleo movement or even keto, most of what they believe is the same for us in the plant-based world. So like, let's come together and speak more against or come together to resist, to support kind of triumph over the food industry, right? That's what we need to triumph over, is the food industry and our gardens and all of the sources of these whole foods needs to grow. So that's what we need to come together around. Yes, Nancy, let's make a food pyramid. So if anyone wants to be my editor, a copywriter, a graphic designer, come on board, reach out to me. In all seriousness, I would love to work with people from our community. Okay, so a couple things now are herbs and spices. You guys have seen these if you maybe were in the plant-based cooking 101, but the spices are really important. These are plant foods, but they're even more nutrient dense and they're even more flavor dense. And so it's easy. I do it all the time. I love my very simple foods without added seasonings, without even, spices and herbs. And it can get repetitive where then I want something more and it's more convenient to go out. But I have all these right in my kitchen and they're so easy to use that if I just pull out my lentils, make a soup, and I throw in some different spices, I rather than using curry powder, I usually use a combination of different spices like cumin and coriander, cardamom, chilies to make my own curry. And so I just have fun with it. And every time it's a little bit different. It feels so good. Same with the herbs. If you can grow your own herbs, it's going to be more affordable and they're going to be fresher. Really, really easy to just add these herbs in and they make a world of difference. Also to your water, and really adding more nutrient and flavor to your water is amazing. Yes, David, I love that idea. A little like a magnet for the fridge would be fantastic. Yeah. So then combining the different flavors, again, we go over this in the magic of umami, but even more so plant-based cooking 101, the sweet, the salty, bitter, and umami, sour, from whole foods, not from the processed stimulus. So we want to use the whole foods, and then we can really combine these to make amazing flavor, right? They support each other. And if you're wondering about the whole food sources of these things, here's a good kind of chart from this company, Cook Smarts. It's a great diagram about the sources of sweetness, spiciness, bitter, sour. Yes, Peggy, exactly. That's what I was thinking in my head as I was saying that, but I was trying to come up with a word, a way to say that we come together and triumph over them without it being focused on the resistance and the fighting, right? There's no fighting of the food industry, but coming together to kind of crowd out the processed food. So building in and layering flavor, here's 10 easy ways to build in the flavor. Yeah, I can share the slides with you, Peggy. I'll do that in the follow-up email. So easy ways. This is not even a detailed course. And now I'm thinking we will do another class where we go in depth to creating flavor. It's a lot of what the magic of umami is about. So if you're wanting to go deeper into flavor, then definitely join the magic of umami. But there's so many ways to create and layer in the flavor. And these are just a few. Then we got to draw bright lines. So how many people are familiar with the term bright line? My friend Susan Pierce Thompson, I met her at Dr. McDougall's Advanced Study Weekend back in 2013 or 2014. And it was before she created Bright Line Eating. If you're familiar with Bright Line Eating, I met her the year before she started that business. And she actually came to my house and saw my setup, how I was recording Plant-Based Cooking 101. At that time, it was called Plants Boot Camp. And she loved that term boot camp, and that's where Bright Line Eating Boot Camp came from.
Hey, Richard, thank you for calling. It's gonna be at 3
Oh,
o'clock. There's been 3 or 4 times that
I
I've
think
thought,
you
oh, I
gotta
have
put
to
yourself
remember to
on
call
mute.
Richard, and then the next interruption would jump in at me, and I didn't get you.
There we go. Okay, so the bright lines in Bright Line Eating, they create these boundaries around what they have and what they don't have. So I'm not saying that we need to draw the same bright lines that they use within Bright Line Eating. Those might be a part of your plan. It's specifically no sugar, flour. They weigh their food or give specific portions of food, and no eating in between meals, which are all very, very helpful for some people. But you got to figure out what's true for you. So it may be based on, SOS-free, SOFAs-free, which is what Chef AJ likes to say, or the bright lines, but ultimately you need to speak your truth and to yourself more than anything. You need to be honest and truthful with yourself around what you're doing, and that can change over time, but you need to find what works for you. And so no sugar, no flour, no oil, no flour, no alcohol, no salt. All of these things help because they're creating an identity for us, or for anyone that's adopting any one of these. They're helping to create an identity where it becomes what you do. And not only does that mean that your lifestyle changes to that bright line, and then you're supporting your health in your body and supporting the flavor on your plate, because if you're not having flour, if you're not having the glutamate, the umami and the sweetness from processed flour, that's what it is it's processed glutamate and processed sugar, or carbohydrates that it acts as sugar in the body, but really it's the processed glutamate that we love as well there. If you're not having that pasta, then you can actually enjoy the flavor of wild grain or a wild rice, right? And you can enjoy more of the flavor of white potatoes, just like a cooked potato as a bread alternative instead of toasted bread. So when we can be truthful to ourselves, we can be changing these things and in a way that becomes part of our identity. And why that matters is because we don't have to use our willpower to make those changes, which is another topic. But I just want to share why that matters, because when you go into like a grocery store, you're shopping, if you have bright lines around certain things, then it's going to be easy for you not to choose the products that you don't want to be having because you have those bright lines. And that way you can stay with the wholesome flavor that is supporting you and enjoying more flavor. If you're breaking these boundaries all the time, or you don't have any boundaries, you're not going to be sticking to a whole food lifestyle. And then the flavor from the whole foods won't be as powerful. They're not going to be as supportive to your health. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Carol, for being here. Anyone else? Jenny, thank you guys for joining us. The slides and the replay will be sent out. We're actually coming up not that much longer, but this is not easy to do. To speak our truth is not easy to do. And at the same time, that is my perspective. So I've just given a filter of what's easy to do and what's not easy to do. And that's been my reality in the past, is speaking your truth isn't easy. And at the same time, just another nuance here, I'm changing that. It's definitely more easy to speak my truth than it is not to, which is why I don't lie. But now embracing that truth for me, which has always been true, it's easier to speak my truth than to create a lie. Embodying that more rather than having that other opinion of it can be difficult to speak your truth, right? Notice, so there's a difference there. And now it's like more of revitalized work right now, but yes, overall, I know it's not the easiest thing to stay with our healthy whole food lifestyle, but when we stick with it, it will become part of our identity and it will make it easier. And then we navigate, the challenges as they come up. Oh my gosh, thank you, George, for letting me know. I will definitely reach out to Ocean Robbins around the glutamate. But exactly what I'm talking about with the whole food plant-based community, very much a whole food community, the food revolution is, and yet they're promoting nutritional yeast. It's like Dr. McDougall always said, we like to have, we justify our bad habits, right? We like the good things about our bad habits. He has a brilliant way of saying it. But even among his community, Dr. McDougall, the starch solution, they love their pasta, right? So we've all got our things, but just the awareness and consciousness around these things is what makes the biggest difference. Number 6 is love your whole self. So this is, I actually called it something else, peace in mind and body, love in the heart. If we are not caring for ourselves and nurturing our whole selves, then we're going to want more of that feel good. We're going to want to create more of those positive neurochemicals, the neurochemistry, the hormones and the neurotransmitters that make us feel good. We're going to want those through something like food. It could be through shopping or TV or something else, but often we're getting it from food. Things that are more rich in flavor are going to give us a bigger dopamine response, more serotonin, even the oxytocin. These things are affected. The glutamate and the GABA also contribute to our happiness. And so we're going to be doing things with the food to create that if we're not doing it for ourselves. So loving our whole self, but also in, like I said, peace of mind is really important, because when your thoughts are everywhere, the chatter is just going, or the negative talk is going, or the to-do lists, you're just always thinking about all the things you got to do and ramping up the stress. All of those things contribute to you creating more, in general, more difficulty. And this is more fact than opinion right now, but you're creating more stress within the body that you have to overcome. And it takes work, even if it's not unconscious, it's the antioxidants in your body doing the work to overcome that stress. And when you're using those antioxidants up and creating more of the stress is being created, hopefully you're overcoming it, but that process in general, the better you do with that process, the easier it is to stay with your whole food flavor. The less resilient the body is, the more challenge you have around that stress and overcoming the stress, then the easier it is going to fall off plan and add in food and flavor that you don't want to be having. Yes, so Judy, a great example. And I actually agree, for some people the salt isn't an issue, but I wouldn't put it on the starch. I would put it on the vegetables. I'd put it on your steamed vegetables or your salad if you're going to have salt in the diet. And same with the sweetness on the oatmeal. I absolutely would not ever recommend sweetness on your oatmeal, even if it makes you consume that oatmeal. By the way, okay. So the flavor we experience, like I said, is so much more than just the food, just the taste that we have. And I've talked about this before in the magic of umami and everything, but I want to bring it back to how it matters about loving yourself and why the loving yourself has an impact on the flavor of our food. So like I was saying, the emotions, our emotional state, the stress that we're under, our mental thoughts, all of that is having an impact on the acceptance of a food. So this far to the far right is a number of things in there: the social situation, your environment, habituation. One of the overall category is the acceptance of a food. Are you going to accept this as being delicious? Am I going to accept that my salad is going to satisfy me right now? And am I going to find the deliciousness in this? That's going to depend on all these different things. And in large part, there's the emotions, but that's like in the moment, your emotions in the moment, your feelings, but also your beliefs about yourself. Do you believe you're worthy? Do you believe that you deserve health and happiness, right? These are some deep things, but they impact whether you're going to find flavor in a healthy food overall. Does that make sense? There's some big concepts here, and I'm just, as I'm going through this, I'm realizing how big and important they are. And yet at the same time, kind of in my head thinking that it's too basic for people to really want to hear. Does that make sense? It's not what we're looking for. When we want more flavor, we want to learn the tips and techniques to create more of that flavor. But these are some of the big, powerful things that really need to be addressed, especially if you're someone that is chasing flavor and wants more techniques, more tips, more food products like the rich, nutritional yeast and things like that to add to your food. Or if you want that dessert that's just going to hit the spot and feel, make you feel so good. This may be like not up your alley right now. That's okay. It's okay. So some different elements of the self-love, all these different pieces. I won't go in depth here, but just if you want to take a look at this when I give you the slides and think about all the ways that you can really care for yourself. That's what I found on my journey, is the sweetness that I was craving even today, when I still crave sweetness, because it's just a lifetime journey. And even when you get really clean with your foods, our bodies are designed to crave things. And so even if it's just whole fruit that I'm craving, once I'm at a stage I'm that clean, which is, always this winding path I'm on. But when I'm eating the most clean diet, I still get cravings for certain foods, wanting to treat myself to something. And I can stop and notice that it's because I want to feel something. I want to feel love. I want to feel, these positive feelings that is associated with dopamine and serotonin, all these things. But I can do something in my life to create that within myself. I don't even have to go out and be with other people. But we're going to talk about next, those are important as well. But within myself, finding the way to feel good is really important to enjoy the most flavor in our life. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes, absolutely, Judy. Fruit on oatmeal is amazing. So the next one, I have my numbers off here, but this is number 7, live deliciously. This is what's like my favorite aspect of flavor right now, because there is nothing that brings me more joy than enjoying life. And food is a piece of that, but it's just a small piece. There's so much more: the relationships, the travel, adventure, creating things, challenging ourselves, moving our body, just being present to this body and to our emotions, listening to music, dancing, meeting up with friends, laughing, telling stories, right? There's so much deliciousness in life. And literally, that's part of our sensing in the body. Our taste receptors are not just sensing the the taste of our food, they're also sensing, they're tasting the other aspects of our life. They're tasting the receptors in our body that can taste the chemicals in our food or the stimuli from our food. And so we call them taste receptors, but they're also picking up on the other flavor in our life. Literally, what you touch, the texture that you touch, that's impacting your life. The energy that you're sensing subconsciously, it's like, right, our sixth sense almost, this ability to sense the energy of the loved ones around you, that's impacting the flavor, the deliciousness that we experience. So you can see, and anyone in the revitalized journey right now knows how this aspect of living a delicious life really lights me up personally. And I hope to inspire you to find that deliciousness in your life as well, so that you don't go chasing the deliciousness in the food. Because if you don't have a delicious life, a life that you love, really enjoy the flavor and all, the sweetness, but also the spiciness and even the saltiness in certain relationships, and the umami, just that overall kind of orgasmic feeling of like, this is so good, it can't get any better. All of that flavor, if you aren't experiencing that, then it's easy to find it somewhere else, to seek it somewhere else. And it is easy to find in the processed food, also in, TV shows, in video games, these things that give you instant pleasure, even social media, the like button, the comments, right? These things that give us this instant hits of dopamine. It's easy to consume that. And that is that superficial level of flavor that is going to give us superficial happiness and health, right? If we want deep happiness, true health, then we need to find that flavor that is just as true and deep, right? Oh, I am interested in checking this book out. Thank you, David, for sharing. So the food is so much more than the nourishment or the flavor too. There's all of the other aspects that go into food. Of course, the fun and connection around it, the fuel that it gives our body, but also the creativity of creating delicious food, right? So when you're in the kitchen and making your food, acknowledge that piece of it too, the creativity, and have fun with it. And that can be a source of flavor in your life, is the food before it even touches your taste buds, just the playfulness around it, the challenge around it as well, creating and having fun with it, and growing and learning and evolving in the kitchen, right, is all about it's all supportive to the journey. And when you're doing that level of or having that level of mindfulness in the kitchen and having fun with it and getting creative, you can give more to the presentation and more to the actual flavor that you're creating, that then you'll enjoy it that much more as you're dining. The last bit here is cleansing your palate is really important, so that your senses are free to enjoy the vast array of life's deliciousness. So this is actually working on multiple levels. We want to cleanse the palate after eating a meal, so that we are, so we're not craving the next meal, so that our mind isn't kind of consumed by food. We're sensing, we might be doing something else, but if we randomly keep coming back to the flavor in our mouths, our mind can keep thinking about food, or just kind of have it there in the background. We're thinking, what's our next meal going to be? So we want to cleanse our palate after the meal so that we can be fully present to the rest of life. And we also want to cleanse the palate after meal so that there's not a lingering stimulus in our mouth that's sending signals to the brain and the rest of the body. especially if it's something like sugar. If you have a liquid beverage with sugar in it, whether it's a soda or a coffee beverage, that sugar in the mouth, the leftover sugar, or it could be leftover umami from a meal. It can be there stimulating the taste buds in your mouth long after the meal is completed. And you're continuing to stimulate your nervous system, which could be contributing to more inflammation in the body, depending on what you're having. So in general, it's a good idea to cleanse the palate. And here are a couple of ways to do that. Just having a glass of water with a little bit of lemon or lime juice is great. The lemon and lime is, it's kind of rough on your teeth. So it actually helps to clean the teeth, clear the junk off of your teeth, but you want to rinse with water, just plain water, or baking soda with water afterwards, so that you don't have that citrus on your teeth for a longer period of time. So another idea, instead of the citrus water, is just a green tea, or better yet, an herbal tea, so you don't have the caffeine. Although there are benefits to green tea, some people can't even handle that minimal amount of caffeine. So fresh ginger is a great option to clear the palate. Peppermint, parsley. Also, if you like cardamom, you can kind of suck on a cardamom pod, kind of just keep it in the side of your mouth, like in your cheek. That's a tradition in India, the cardamom pods. And anise seeds, same thing. And if you really want to eat something, snack on something, or have a crunch, celery sticks are basically the simplest food that you could get to clean the palate and not contribute more sweetness or something. Exactly, David. And even if you notice the sunset and you're like, oh, that's beautiful, while you're having the sugar, you can actually appreciate it more when you don't have this as much stimulation from the food, right? Your senses are more sensitive. Just like imagine if you were doing a fast and you reset your nervous system and then you go back into reality, your senses are more sensitive to the sounds around you, the energy around you. So similar, as you're saying, with the sunset, you can actually enjoy that delicious sunset that much more. So that's it for today, as far as my presentation. If you guys have any questions or comments, you want to share anything, I'd love to hear it. So I saw a question about the clove. Oh, awesome. Yes, great. Cloves are fantastic as well. It's just finding a similar spice. Clove is a lot like anise seed, and licorice is another option. Those are all good. And they have a taste themselves, but it is something that the taste of those spices helps to kind of curb any cravings for sweetness. So awesome. Thank you, Lorna. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm glad you enjoyed the class today. If you want to give me any more specific feedback, I would love it, because these topics, like I said, are really important to me, and I'd like to make them more helpful to other people and really walking you through the important pieces, but also in a way that's engaging and really inspiring to people and wanting to take action instead of what feels like it could be kind of basic. So if you have any thoughts around any of that, feel free to email me. Let me know. I will see you in the Magic of Umami. If you're with us for the Magic of Umami right now, we have a live class happening next on Sunday, or sorry, Saturday, sorry, Monday. But the Magic of Umami is ongoing. And so if you want to join the Magic of Umami now, you will love it, because that one is specifically the science and art of flavor. So good. And if you haven't taken Plant-Based Cooking 101 yet, but you would like more culinary skills about how to create the flavor, That is the Plant-Based Cooking 101 is a fantastic class for that as well. And if you liked the pieces around mindset and energy and everything, then stay tuned for the next round of Revitalize, because it's really, really amazing to be working with everyone on a deeper level around food. It's just incredible, the conversations that we have, the coaching work that we do around mindset and energy to support our health and our food habits and everything. It's really fun. So I'm going to figure out some ways to break that Revitalize program up as well into quarter-long or 3-month sections. So you don't have to commit to a full year. You can just do smaller pieces depending on what resonates or what might be fitting for your schedule at the time. So stay tuned. I will have more info on that as well. And the Delicious Living membership right now is combined with the Revitalize program, but I am thinking about how to bring back the membership in another way so that I can support you guys in having this ongoing deliciousness with the food and in the rest of life as well. So again, any thoughts you guys have, you are what I'm here for, or who I'm here for. So I love your feedback. If you would love to share anything with me, you can do that over email. I'm also on WhatsApp and Telegram. So if either of those work for you, I also love connecting there rather than email, because email just is overwhelming sometimes. And I find it nice to connect in the other platforms. So lastly, if you're not on Instagram, that's another place that I'm going to be showing up more, Facebook and Instagram. So give me a follow there. The links to the social media are always at the bottom of our emails right now. So if you have a desire to connect there, please do that as well. Until next time, I hope you have a delicious week, and hopefully we'll be speaking again sooner than later. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys have a delicious evening. Just seeing if I missed any questions here. The umami class there's a new umami class, the Magic of Umami, an expanded version that's happening right now. So if you joined recently, then you got the expanded version. And if you've taken it before, you have the option of joining again for 1/3 of the price. Oh, Diana, thank you for the feedback. Thank you everyone for being here. And if you have any questions about the other courses, anything that you haven't taken yet, feel free to reach out. I would love to answer any questions or concerns so that you can join us in continuing your journey. All right. Until I see you again, have a delicious time. Bye. Thank you for being here.